Yeah, talk to me about that very first time you heard about something. Did you see it? Did you hear about something? You said it took about 6 months for you to kind of figure out that this wasn't normal. Why 6 months? What was the first encounter like?
The way it worked was we didn't start seeing these until we upgraded our radars from the APG-73 to the APG-79. And all that really means is that we basically had a generational jump in ability to look out and see what's around us.
Mm-hmm.
So that process of installing those in the jet, we were actually the first squadron to upgrade our jets from the old radar to new radar. We started seeing things on the radar, and we were seeing a lot of things that we had never seen before because we just had that much greater capability.
When you say a lot of things, like what are common things that you later identified as being normal that weren't there before?
Not sure that they weren't there before. It's just we weren't presenting the information so readily, and we kind of had to work for it. But I think, like commercial airliners, ground targets or ground objects that were moving, instead of us having to kind of actively like go out and be like, all right, where is that thing? Information was basically just presented to us all the time. So it was more information than we were used to.
So is it fair to say that there's some automation built into these systems and that they're kind of self-tracking and self-identifying objects?
I wouldn't say they're identifying. I will say that it just provides us a larger scope.
Okay.
With a much smaller delay, really is all I can get into. But the bottom line is that we were seeing a lot more stuff. And now some of this stuff was behaving unusually when we noticed it. So things that were essentially not moving. So fixed over location over the ocean at, various altitudes, which is unusual, right? Because even balloons and whatnot, they'll drift with the wind. When we fly over the ocean, we're working in airspace that is very tightly scheduled. We work in certain blocks in that airspace. We communicate going in and out. So you know who everyone is. You can identify what they're flying essentially you can kind of look over on the radar and be like, oh yeah, they're over there doing their mission. But to see stationary objects or objects out there that are behaving, crossing borders and things like that you wouldn't be expecting was pretty unusual. So our first inclination was that, hey, okay, maybe there's a small issue with our radar here. The older radar would occasionally pick up, exceptionally thick clouds or potential radar reflections from vehicles on the ground. And so that was kind of the first place we went. I think in the back of our minds, we knew that probably wasn't realistic based on the technology and the radar. But that's, when you're busy flying and doing a lot of stuff and kind of flying on stem power, when you see these things, that's kind of the first thing that we thought. Just, potentially is just some type of radar malfunction.
You're probably thinking like new device, new potentially bugs, right? Is that kind of the thinking?
Yeah, and we had similar things on the older radars, and they're not necessarily bugs per se that you can just throw a few lines of code and fix. It's just like inherent with the technology we're using, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is the APG-79 doesn't have those problems in the new radar. So, we've kind of worked out that in our brains, over the course of time when we're seeing these things, be like, hey, this isn't really possible. But what really kind of solidified it for us was when we were within a certain range, we're able to actually pick one of the objects up on the essentially what we call the FLIR. It's essentially a IR and electro-optical camera. So for lack of better words, it provides us with heat energy from the object or actual visual camera of the object.
Mm-hmm.
And so people actually saw an object from the camera, and that kind of negated the fact that it would be some type of radar error or software error to have a physical camera looking at it.
Right.